A new Times analysis of voter registration data shows the Democratic Party is hemorrhaging voters. Of the 30 states that track voter registration by party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one between the 2020 and 2024 elections, often by a lot.
Brand new CNN poll out today shows the Democrats' favorability among Americans is at its lowest point in the history of CNN's polling back to 1992. How can you guys turn that around?
The latest NBC News national poll finds that a majority of registered voters, 55%, have a negative view of the party.
They want to see people fight. They want to see fighters. They want to see them standing up.
There is a lot for them to learn.
I pitched this to Senator Elizabeth Warren, by the way. I said, the Democrats have to pick up a little bit of the WWE energy.
Yeah, a little bit of the WWE
signing the bill
energy.
and throwing the pen is like a...
Yeah, it's got a t-shirt cannon full of regulations.
Whether you agree with this sentiment or not, it's clear that a lot of people feel this way. Especially among those on the left, there has been a lot of anger over the Democrats not doing enough, not doing things correctly, or just plain old being out of touch. So let's explore the past of Democrats' messaging and see if there's not something we can figure out about this current reality that we find ourselves in. Just maybe we can see where we went wrong and not just gain back political power, but gain back the public's support as well.
I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids.
The 2016 election was coming right off the heels of 2 consecutive terms of Obama, a lovely liberal presidency that made history. Following Obama, the Democrats put forth Hillary Clinton. I already spent a long time going over the policies and more factual analysis of Clinton's campaign, so in this video, I mainly want to explore the vibes. We are in a vibes-based political reality now that this video should make more apparent. But long story short, Hillary wasn't cool, socially speaking. The memes were not on her side. It was easy to make fun of her, and whether you believe that was because she was a woman or not, it definitely made it a lot easier, especially in the anti-SJW era of the 2010s. Trump, on the other hand, was fiery, fresh, and not a politician. What he was a failed businessman, a TV personality with 0 qualifications for being president, but the general public only cared that he wasn't Hillary Clinton. How did this happen? Optics maxing, or over-indexing into how you are perceived by the public and putting maximum effort into how you appear to others, became associated with being fake. Anyone who was a politician wasn't being genuine, and people who weren't politicians were real. This shift happened because Trump mobilized an entirely new block of voters, people who hated politics. In any presidential election, anywhere from 35 to 40% of Americans don't vote, and a large portion of these non-voters prior to Trump's debut onto the political scene were people who just hated politics. No matter how invalid this opinion is, people felt like politics was completely separate from their day-to-day lives. That there were a bunch of fat cats in Washington making 10 times their nut, to steal some verbiage from South Park, that they couldn't do anything about because politics was simply a cesspool of narcissistic snakes. Coincidentally, they chose to vote for the king of narcissistic snakes, but I digress. So, in comes Donald Trump with loud and bold claims of draining the swamp and smashing the existing system, so a large swath of people who didn't like politics ended up throwing their vote in with the guy that they saw as a way to fuck the system. The establishment Republicans, who were politically savvy enough to see this train wreck coming, sat the election out, and his victory completely changed the course of the Republican Party. His actual presidency was heavily curtailed by the establishment picks that he chose for other positions, and his vice president ended up saving the country by refusing to go along with Trump's false electors plot. But honestly, I don't think this alone is how we ended up where we are currently, and it doesn't completely tell of how Democrats got such a bad rap nationally. This election definitely tied the word Democrat to establishment, but this alone wasn't what put the Democratic Party on the back foot. Before I continue, I just want to stress that this was an extremely close election. Hillary won the popular vote by quite a lot of votes, and Donald Trump only won because of the Electoral College. While I think that the social vibes of Hillary being completely rejected came from the sort of anti-SJW sentiment of that era of the internet, that isn't actually reflective of reality. More people voted for Hillary than Donald Trump in 2016.
I'm sick and tired.
Joe Biden, wake up. Joe Biden, wake up.
I'm sick and tired.
Wake up. Joe Biden.
Mr. President, wake up. Get to work. There's so much more to be done.
Wake up, wake up.
The Republicans seem to support some guy named Dark Brandon. He's having a really good year. That's a bunch of malarkey.
When my predecessor got COVID, he was severely ill.
I can't breathe.
When I got COVID, I worked from upstairs at the White House.
You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-American. Donald Trump lacked the courage to act. Joe! Never forget that. The bad news for you is, I'm coming back.
Joe Biden ran a very old-school campaign, even receiving criticism for his tactics, with spending a lot of money on ads towards older middle-class people. He didn't do much pandering to the youth or further left faction that supported Bernie Sanders. His campaign was largely focused on moderate and liberal Democrats. And contrary to what the more leftist corners of the internet would have you believe, this was massively effective as Biden blew Trump out of the water. Now, Trump's handling of COVID and failures of his presidency, as well as the chaos during his first term, which now pales in comparison to this one, heavily tilted the scales in the Dems' favor. But Biden won the 2020 election by 7 million votes. It's clear that people hated his first presidency, but somehow people have forgotten how badly that went the first time around. If you want a more in-depth analysis of his first presidency and my thoughts, you should go ahead and watch this video I made, which included a lot of analysis of 2016 and 2024. But again, I just want to stick to the vibes-based analysis because I really think that's how politics has changed in 2024. COVID was, in my opinion, the massive turning point of our culture that set us up for Trump's second presidency. Now, I could point to the low-hanging fruit that studies show that COVID results in up to 9-point drop in IQ with a further 2-point reduction with reinfection, meaning that people simply getting stupider is how Trump won. But honestly, that feels very intellectually lazy, and I don't even think going down that road would help us get anywhere close to solving the problem, so moving on. The big point I want to make about COVID is that it turned everyone onto the internet. People started using the internet way more than before, and thus turned to the classico podcast. Before COVID, there was a lot of evidence that the internet didn't really matter that much politically. Terminally online people were absolutely in a fabricated reality, which still holds true mostly, but I think that the percentage of the culture that has been dictated by the internet has increased massively, to the point where you can no longer write it off politically. During Biden's presidency, a political normie wouldn't have cared or noticed who was the president, although I could factually point to many things that I think he achieved that are worth celebrating and should be proud of, but most people didn't see or care. They were too busy watching Joe Rogan talk about crazy stories from the internet about litter boxes in classrooms that were completely false, by the way. That shit is not happening. But either way, the left began getting associated with crazy stuff online because they were absent from this new emerging landscape of online spaces for discussing politics. The right movement was able to control the culture, and endlessly shitting on liberals was the cool thing to do. This built up the right as being the, quote, default position, that the left wasn't in control of alternative media or the stories, and they couldn't even claim that to be the case because the right talking points of fake news and liberal-controlled media had already become massive slogans among centrists like Joe Rogan. You see, leading up to the 2024 election, most of the internet culture was being dominated by the right. They were endlessly able to represent the left however they wanted, and that just became mainstream opinion. And with no control over the alternative media spaces that were popping up, the left was rendered toothless.
In this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? There are some people who think we should be a country of chaos, of fear, of hate. But us, we choose something different.
Here is where it becomes apparent that we are in a vibes-based political environment, that control over the internet culture has become control over popular culture. By all metrics, Kamala Harris was the more qualified and better political candidate. If you disagree, and I say this with no due respect, you are delusional. You are surrounded by a manufactured narrative from the right-wing alternative media, and what you believe is not supported by reality. I'm sorry to break it to you. Factually speaking, she had every advantage. And honestly, if she had more time to campaign and wasn't thrust into the spotlight mere months before the election, I think there was a much better chance that she would have won. But given the facts, it shouldn't have mattered. The Republican Party turned to Trump once more, even though he had just lost the last race against Biden. He performed poorly in his first term. The January 6th insurrection was a massive stain on his legacy and was 100% his fault. And he was somehow even more divisive and problematic this time around. But the facts don't matter. It doesn't matter what factually happened, because although Biden pulled us out of the economic fallout from COVID, the worst of it still happened while he was president. What their actual qualifications are don't matter, because Kamala is awkward and Trump is cool and based and funny. The last 4 years have primed the general public to think that the right is the social norm and the left are crazy reactionary blue-haired cat ladies. Kamala basically predicted everything that Trump would do during his second term, and people rejected it as bullshit. But I think the reason why is because they didn't care. And finally, this brings me to my main point with this video, which is the reason why it feels impossible to win against MAGA, is that people like you and me, the type of people who would make or watch a long-form political video about liberal politics, are fighting a game of principles and policy against a movement built on vibes and wanting to win. Like I mentioned earlier, the Republican Party's main base has been supplanted by a group of people that see politics as a game, and although they initially joined out of disdain for it, now they have become dedicated. They just like to root for their team, and the current Republican Party is only playing to win. They don't care about the rule of law or the Constitution or democracy. They want to be on the winning team, and the general public has been primed to think that it's not that big of a deal, that people saying democracy is ending are lunatics, and the right is controlling the alternative media to force that mentality. So, of course, normies want to be on the winning team. Of course, they want to be in on the side that seems to be where society is headed. I think that before Trump and COVID, this just want to win mentality was by and large still the case. Most normies just wanted to join the winning team, but who was winning back then wasn't dictated by the internet, and politics didn't have nearly the same stranglehold on pop culture as it does today. People determined who was winning by turning to political nerds, talk show hosts, the news you watched, papers you read, and the news outlets' opinion pieces and columnists all showed people what was what. Politics wasn't so heavily tied to the pillars of modern culture like the internet. And since the Democrats have been on the back foot for years at this point, it doesn't even feel good rooting for them as a left-leaning person. They are cultural losers. They're being cucked by MAGA, and it sucks.
We have got to meet fire with fire. We cannot unilaterally disarm with the size of 21 state populations combined.
Wrong number! We are America, second to none.
Democrats.
We do not scare easily. We never bow. We never bend. We never break.
We're giving the power to the people.
No, we endure. We overcome.
That's what this is all about. It's about power. You have the power. You have the power.
Give it a fair shot. Give it a fair chance. Americans have never, ever let their country down.
He doesn't play by a different set of rules. He doesn't believe in the rules.
We have the strongest economy in the world.
I'm about to end this man's whole career. Boom, bam, bop, bada bop, boom, pow.
No one has ever done that! No one has ever done that in the history of Dota! We're done here, it's a wrap.
Oh my god, now this is the energy that the Dems need. The Democrats have to stop giving a shit about optics. They have to stop caring about being tolerant and inclusive all the time for everyone. It's just not politically viable in the current environment. It is very clear that this behavior from the right is being rewarded politically. A lot of Americans just don't care. They just want to be on the winning team. The truth is, the Dems already are pretty damn tolerant and accepting. While there obviously is still distance that needs to be covered, and I'm not going to run cover for all of the horrible shit that they have done in the past and continue to do today, they are laughably better than the competition, regardless of what the terminally online far left wants you to think. The stakes are way too fucking high. It's time to ignore the extremes of the party and double down on fighting back against MAGA and Trump. Notice that for the first time in a very long time, Democrats have a decent chunk of the media environment. Hell, Trump even mentioned Gavin Newsom when talking to Fox News about the meeting with Putin. He is in their heads. He's being relentless and taking control of the narrative. The political scene right now is dominated by being loud and edgy and unfiltered. This is the way forward. The vibes have to be that the Democrats are the team you want to be on, that they are the winning team, that they have the social momentum, that what Trump is doing isn't just bad and scary, but it's cringe and embarrassing. You don't want to root for the team that feels like it's on the way out. And the important thing to notice is that it's not just the messaging that's improved, but he's taking action with it. The redistricting move to counteract this play that Texas went for is precisely the strategy we need right now. It feels good to be part of a movement that's actually fighting for democracy. People don't just want politicians anymore, they want a team, a banner, a tribe, a faction that they can rally behind and root for. Someone or something charismatic and fun and cool. Not to mention, this seems to be who is behind this posting, which are your stereotypical libtards to the right, so it makes it 500 times funnier that Trump is getting destroyed on Twitter by these posts. A big reason why so many normie people felt so comfortable falling into these MAGA talking points is because they feel socially comfortable. The goal of projects like what Gavin Newsom is doing should make people feel uncomfortable to support these ideas and opinions. We need a dark woke movement to really take off. The best part is, Democrats are already winning on policy. Whether you agree with everything they are doing or not, they are light years ahead of where Trump's authoritarian train wreck is heading. They also don't need to change that much of their campaigning strategy. They can still reach out to older and more moderate Dems in the swing states, just pair it with some new age dark woke energy online. Get people excited to call themselves Democrats. Make mainstream online opinion feel like they want to be on your side. It's important that we don't abandon the ground game for this though, as it's very important to funnel people who are turned on by this whole dark woke era into voting booths. We have to capture more votes to win this next election. And importantly, we have to turn it into actual political power. So in summary, I am proud to call myself a Democrat and a liberal because honestly, liberalism is pretty fucking based. Get over it. Also, this terminally online center-left person absolutely supports Gavin Newsom's recent journey onto the dark woke saga. I want more fire and passion from the Democratic Party. Make noise, create a scene, control the narrative. Our democratic republic depends on it.